Thirsty Thursday. Sun is shining, birds are chirping, and we are back here on Chasing Birdies. Thanks for tuning in today. And my man, what you doing?
I am currently in my office.
Oh,
working, and we're doing the intro-outro.
no,
So,
yeah,
Thirsty
That's
Thursday,
good.
boys and girls. I hope everyone's either working, taking the day off to go peg it up, or crack a cold one because it's almost summer.
True.
Today's episode is brought to you by Red Family, which is on my hat. Make sure you check them out at redfamily.com. Really looking forward to their presence at the Chasing Birdies 2-man.
Wow, struggling. I see.
And seeing some of the Red Family boys there, but make sure you go on over to redfamily.com and check them out. Get yourself some fresh swag and make yourself look good, even if you suck at golf.
The athletic shorts, the drawstring short that they have. I mean, I can't take them off. In fact, if someone tries to take them off me, I pull them back up. I'm like, don't take my shorts off.
Don't take my shorts off.
They feel good. I can't explain.
Well,
You
when
just
you
gotta
wear
see for
no
yourself.
underwear,
Exactly, and it feels even better.
feels good.
It feels
silk
good. So
sheet on
try
your
it.
balls.
A little silk. Yeah. And this is a Memorial Day weekend, bud. So it is really the kickoff to summer. So happy Memorial Day. Thank you for all those who have made us where we are today in this great country, United States of America. We appreciate your service.
And I think
we
sometimes
honor
we forget
those.
that. So let's.
We do. We take it for granted.
Yes.
You know? You 100% do.
But we have so much to catch up on, dude. I mean, let's rewind it to Crooked Stick. Congratulations to you on your first win in probably ever. Low gross. It's pending right now still. There's some issues, but you shot 71, and you're the winner of the Moyer Open. So thank you to Moyer for putting on another great event. Dan Moyer, it's always fun to be there, see him. He puts on a great show for the Children's Hospital and all that jazz. So
Yeah, Crooked Stick was awesome. I appreciate you guys inviting me. You know, I was able to take some time out of my busy schedule and spend it with you guys in Indianapolis. And then, but honestly, the trip didn't start until, Crooked Stick, for example, was, there's really not anything bad about that place. I don't know if
You liked
people
it?
out there, I did like it.
Good.
I did like it. I loved it. Carmel, Indiana is a beautiful town, man. I got a little run-in the morning, couple of 3.5 miles down by the Riverwalk or something. Worked off those Pacificos.
it's not San Antonio.
I felt safe. So other than the statues, I got these weird-ass statues just hanging out in the middle of the trails.
Random. One looks like Joe Hardy. So yeah.
But yeah, and I gotta thank you, bud, for putting that thing together from Indianapolis to Nashville. You rented a nice caravan. We had a really cool white Chrysler Pacifica.
Hey, bud, great on gas. Spacious. What
It
else?
was very comfortable. I had a big hole below my seat that I could fall into, and you did great. You absolutely did great. You're a little fast there on the interstates. I think you realized that your initial plan of us all flying was the better option, which you bailed on. But
No, I did not.
But
no.
but no, it's fine. It's fine. I appreciate your diligence and attention to the travel and the roads. It was great.
That's good, bud. Thanks. I mean, why we did whatever. It's whatever. It was a great, fun drive at 7 p.m. 4 hours and 15 minutes. The van came hauling ass into Smashville. Tell you what, though, bud, Monday nights on Broadway, a little popping, huh?
I mean, Nashville in general is popping.
So let's talk about what transpired this past week. A lot transpired this past week in the golf world. Xander Schauffele wins. I was a little shocked that he could hang in there. I'm glad he did, so that Bryson did not win. I just did not want Bryson to win. I think he's a phony. But that's neither here nor there. So congratulations to Xander. Probably not listening. So Just want to tell you, good job.
Definitely not listening.
And but Scotty Scheffler got arrested Friday morning, slammed against the car, handcuffed, put into the orange jumpsuit. Not 20 minutes later, they let him go after his 4 charges. Mm-hmm. So I think that there was probably like either the district attorney or somebody that works under the DA was probably a member at Valhalla, right? Or is a member at Valhalla, and this probably was not okay. So things, I think, are getting dropped for Mr. Scheffler, which, I mean, come on, dude. Again, we forget that there was a life lost, so let's not forget that. We feel terrible for that. But Scotty Scheffler's not trying to do anything.
No, I mean, you feel terrible for the person that was killed that morning, naturally. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's like, wait a second here, guys. My man was just trying to get to the gym, do a little warm-up before his tee time, before he takes over the world again. And so I think really it doesn't even matter. It's like at the end of the day, it's stupid to even charge him for anything, in my opinion. Not that he's above the law, but there was just a big major miscommunication that had, kind of caused that problem.
Yeah.
But it was a fun one.
He's stretched in the jail cell, bud.
Yeah.
And then did you see what Max Homa said? This weekend was not the weekend I was hoping for. I literally lost to somebody that was in jail. Like, he does not miss on social media. He's hilarious. So if you don't follow Max Homa, follow him because he's very funny.
That was a great PGA Championship. Valhalla looked great. I texted a buddy of mine who's a member there. He never texted me back, but I told him the course looked awesome. So I'll get that text maybe in a year or so. But at any rate, I was happy to see Xander do it. I mean, I didn't think he could do it. I told Daddy on Friday that he's going to play great through Saturday, and Sunday he's going to fumble. And I was I was fine with Xander winning, but I had some skin in the game on Hovland and DeChambeau. Those were 2 of my picks early on, so I was really kind of hoping one of those 2 would win, but you can't knock it. I mean, Xander played great. So that awesome shot, dude, did you see that shot he hit on 18, the second? His feet were in the bunker. The ball's above his feet. He's got this weird, that was such a great shot under that type of duress.
Yeah, and the putt, dude. I mean, the nerves going through that putt to lip it in. Generally, that putt lips out, to be honest with you. Low side lip out. But got it done. So congratulations to him. And you all had a little fun time at Pete Dye. You had a ripping and roaring and all that jazz the second round. You were 8 under. That's all I heard about from both of you. And you both made a triple. Best ball on 17.
Yeah. Well, in hindsight, it didn't even matter because Ryan Mason and Ian Hogue just absolutely dominated this weekend at Pete Dye. I think they shot 17 under gross, 16 under net. Potentially won both. Definitely won the gross, but I think they might have won the net as well, so we weren't even close. But yeah, we were rolling. I mean, 8 birdies through 16 holes, and you get to 17 at Pete Dye, and you're like, well, I got a little wedge in my hand, 120 yards. B-Cats can't see the flag where he is, but he had 65 yards, so it's like, well, the worst we're going to do here is make par, maybe. But we both walked out of there with a 7, each of us, and came up short. But we had a good time. That course is really coming around.
Well, the good thing is, at least you didn't have to look over and see your parents disappointed in you on the side and all that jazz, and that's what's going to roll us into our episode with ex-MLB first rounder Travis Snider.
Yeah, Travis Snider joins us on the pod today here on Chasing Birdies, and we get into a lot of serious stuff, especially dealing with youth and the emotions they feel when it comes to sports and the crazy parents that we all have, and Jonathan being one of them. So it's really good. It's a really good topic. So I don't know, Pep. Let's just roll it in.
Let's roll it over to Travis Snider.
All right, you guys out there tuning in to this week's episode of Chasing Birdies, and one streak that we've had on this show is first rounders, man. We've had first rounders all over the place, and today we're joined by another first rounder. 2006 MLB draft, Travis Snider. Did I say that correctly? 2006?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, man. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, I got to preface what he just said, too. and one of Neil Walker's all-time favorite teammates. So that's saying a lot.
The feeling is mutual. Neil and I connected. Our wives got along great and still connected. And he's one of those guys I just admired throughout my career with what he did as the hometown kid in his own city, and getting to see just a glimpse of that from behind the scenes was really cool.
It was pretty cool.
Neil is like one of those people that if you're having a bad day, you just want to be around them a little bit. And next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I'm happy again.
He's got that spunky personality. He's upbeat, and he's got kind of the high-pitched voice. And he always kept things light, and I think that was one of the things we connected on, right, is we like to have personalities in the clubhouse and try and keep guys loose and have a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's good to connect with you and yuck it up here a little bit and catch up, man. So I know it's been a while since you've been in Pittsburgh. You had a couple stints with the Pirates, but you're out were you in Seattle right now?
Yeah, just north of Seattle.
Yeah, that's a cool spot though. It's Pacific Northwest is beautiful.
It is.
If you like hiking.
We got some decent golf weather right now, so we're trying to take advantage of these 70-degree days, which, as you guys know, on the East Coast, 70, 75 is perfect.
Yeah. I've been on the road for a couple days this week, and the one day I wanted to play golf was on a Friday, so I was so excited, and now it's raining. So
we get that though.
Yeah, we had trouble filling two foursomes today, which is a very unusual feeling on a Friday afternoon when you got sunshine. But we were able to get a 5-some sanction, so we'll be heading out here at about 1:10.
We had a previous guest on, Chris Trott, and he said when he moved over to the States, or California specifically, he said it's like Fridays don't exist. They're not even a day. Nobody works on Fridays. People are surfing, playing golf, doing whatever. And I realized that I think that's true. Like Fridays, it's like piss on it. I mean, you get in the office for a couple hours and it's like, you want to go golf? Hey, let's go. You want to go shop? You want to go to this place? Like Friday, why not?
Yeah, I try and load my days up and get up early. I got 3 kids, so I try and get up between 5 and 6 and just hammer out as much as I can in the morning, and then be a present dad for a few hours, get some work done, and again, stack things as much as I can Monday through Thursday, so I can have a half day or a full day out playing golf.
Yeah. So clearly,
when you played baseball, I mean, the pitchers have the lucky side of the draw, right? Because they pitch every 6 days and they get to go play golf on their off days, this, that, and the other. Little jealousy from you on that, or what?
I was such a bad golfer in my time of playing baseball. I didn't grow up with a lot of understanding of the swing. I'm also a right-handed golfer and a left-handed hitter. So there's a lot of things working against me throughout my golfing career. I also had a few injuries that I sustained in spring training and during the season while playing golf. And, if you're injured and you can't be out on the field and you did something that's not baseball related, it doesn't sit very well with the organization. So those were mistakes I made early in my career that I kind of just punted the idea of golfing till the very end when I felt like I could go out there and play 18 holes and still perform on the field. But there was a big window where I just said it's not worth it at this point. And then after I retired, it was full on addiction, head over heels into it.
Well, and that's the thing that I think, we'll talk about Neil a good bit because there's a mutual relationship, but he went on his first real golf trip with us last summer to the Greenbrier. And that's what he said. He's like, dude, I've never been on one of these. This is incredible that you guys do these type of things because you have the worst draw for baseball. It's during the golf season. So there's no golf trips being taken. Like you said, your contract won't let it, et cetera. So he was really stoked up about that.
Yeah, I think he's heading to Pebble next week is what he told me. And I was lucky because I got a group of friends here. We're all members at a local club, and half of them don't have your traditional 9 to 5 Monday through Friday working schedule. So there's a lot of flexibility to get out during the week and play 10 a.m. rounds and be done by 2 and pick your kids up and be home. So we try and take advantage of the midweek rounds. And coaching Little League Baseball and having 3 kids, I try not to play on the weekends very often, if at all, maybe a couple times a year, but really try and take advantage of the nice weekdays.
So you're talking about Little League Baseball here.
Wait, hold on.
Go ahead, bud.
I mean, it's all you do is cut me off. But I do want to get back to that because of your organization, what you're doing with youth sports. But I need to ask a question. You hurt yourself playing golf?
Yes. I was swinging a long driver, and again, bad swing mechanics, opposite-handed, a lot of things working against me. And I took a big rip with a teammate of mine's long drive golfer and felt a little tweak in my they call it, I'm blanking, the rib cage muscle in there, intercostal. It's you wouldn't even know you had one. And I felt like, okay, I tweaked something, but I'll be all right. And then the next day I couldn't walk, hardly couldn't run, couldn't rotate, couldn't throw, couldn't do anything baseball related. And I had to go in and explain to them what happened. So being 22 years old and walking into the trainer's room and telling him he got hurt playing golf, it's definitely not a memory I'm fond of in my baseball career.
Yeah, because naturally you could hurt your wrist hitting a root or something like that. Or in the case of Pep, you might have gout flare up and you can't walk around the course a little bit. But for the most part, it's like, man, I guess your lower back, you could tweak it. So I was just curious, Travis, because I just wanted to know how that happened. But I could see that being not a really fun injury.
Yeah, I had wrist problems too, and I banged up my wrist one year on the All-Star break. I played some golf as well, so it was like the risk reward wasn't there at that point. And when you're going out shooting 110, 120 on nice courses, it's like we might as well wait until I'm done and I have an opportunity to plan some golf trips, like you said. So I got to go to Bandon Dunes twice since I retired. I went to Pebble and played Spanish and did Spyglass and Poppy Hills, and we went back to Bandon this year for the second time, which I got my first hole-in-one at the
Did you?
On the preserve. It was a par 3 course, but it was 140 yards out.
Let's go.
We had 7. It was an 8-some out there playing, and I just ran over to the drink stand to buy the whole group drinks, because when you're out there on the par 3, you're trying to get loose and have a good time, and all kinds of actions flying. And so I stuck a shot about 6 inches from the pin, ran over, grabbed a whole tray of drinks for everybody, came back, tapped in the birdie putt, and walked up to the next tee box. And I'm the first one to tee off. And one of my best friends of 30 plus years is a +1. He's a stick, right? And we're kind of talking through what the shot looks like and where the pin's at. And there's a hill behind it. So I knocked down a 8-iron, which is like a 150, 155 club for me, and just tried to flight it a little bit lower and hit the backboard. And we just watched as an 8-some this thing roll into the pin. And at first I'm like, okay, par 3, does this really count? But with the yardage, we said, yeah, it counts.
Yeah, it counts.
Felt like a walk-off in the major leagues, right? Just a bunch of people punching and throwing stuff and screaming.
Jumping.
And we had other groups on the course that were fired up too. So it was, again, a moment I will never forget. Russell Martin was actually in our group too. So we did have a former Pirate out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, that's a hole-in-one. It's a par 3 course. It's a hole.
Well,
it's not a 70-yarder, right?
No, I mean, the preserve is one of the most legitimate par 3 courses I've ever played.
Yeah,
I mean, it's badass. Really.
It is. Have you guys seen the shorties that just released or opened up over there?
No, I haven't. I was there in September, and I don't think
they just opened a new par 3 on the property there, so you have 2 options now. Next time you guys go back.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you can't even argue over what course is better, because Bandon and Pacific Dunes are both phenomenal. I think Pac has a little bit of a better vantage point of the ocean right there. But I mean, what do you? I mean, how could you knock it?
Yeah, this time we ran into, I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter and other social medias, there were some greens issues. They had some problems with some of the greens. We played Bandon first, which was my favorite the first time we went, and the greens were not in good shape. So it kind of dampened the experience for the first timers there. But to your point, I think Pac Dunes is just gorgeous. Bandon just has the history, and then you get up into trails and you're like, it feels like you're in a completely different place.
Yeah, trails is great. Yeah. So, yeah, we could talk about it, but I don't want to leave Pep out.
Go ahead, guys. Keep on going about Bandon.
Hey,
never
back
been
to what yours?
Sore subject.
No, I've never been. He just went this past year, and the only property that I've been from theirs is at Sand Valley in Wisconsin, which was, again, an incredible experience. The food was great. People were great. The courses were fun. Those are well-oiled machine golf destinations.
For sure.
So, well, we were talking about, Little League Baseball, and I gotta talk about it a little bit, because my little one, 7 years old's in it. And you'll probably laugh at this, but I said, Neil, I can't take it, man. I said, I what do I do? He said, listen, bud. He said, get a cigar, grab some sunflower seeds, and just stay in the back row. Mm-hmm. He said, don't say a word. So I know you've written a book, but I think this is something that I can relate to a little bit, is watching how these parents are being with kids. And at 6-year-old and 7-year-old baseball games, that, I mean, can we just let them enjoy the game and let them have fun? I mean, my son's chasing a butterfly. He's doing figure eights out there. It's fine. Like, I just want him to want to be there.
Yes. And I think to start off, one, I didn't write the book. I actually purchased the IP. My partner wrote these books originally for youth soccer. And after I read them, I'm like, we need to translate these into multiple sports, just to give parents an understanding of what this process can be, how you can build a stronger connection with your kid, and how to reshift the way we view youth sports and that experience of what our child is going through on the field. And my kid's 7 years old as well, and I coach his rookie division coach pitch team. And for me, I try and set that example for my parents. We communicate. But for the other parents and coaches that are out there, it becomes very intense, right? And when you watch the thing you love the most run around on a field and go out there and maybe not get a hit or get out or whatever the situation, playing in the sand, right? And that's a tough thing for parents at times to understand that, 0 to 10 are these developmental years where kids want to feel two things. Am I safe and am I loved? And a lot of times the kids out there don't feel safe, right? They feel scared. There's a lot of pressure with parents sitting around and people cheering. And again, each kid's different. So what I try and do with both of my children is really have intentional conversations, how they feel when they're out there and when things aren't going well. My youngest son doesn't like to hit in front of crowds. He'll go play defense in the t-ball games, but we'll hang out at the park for the inning while the team's hitting. And I think a lot of parents feel that pressure to have to force your kid onto the field when they don't want to be out there. And those are the things that I think are breeding these unhealthy relationships with sports, right? And creating a tension, whether it's intentional or not, right? Parents are trying to do the best thing, but you create a tension and a relationship with the sideline of having to look at your parent for approval all the time, which is totally natural at this stage. And it's a tough thing for us as parents to feel like, well, my kid doesn't want to be out there, but some of these other kids do. And it's like we're way too early in the process to start trying to figure out who's going to be the next major league or Division I baseball player.
Well, and I'm very lucky in that my son's coach, he's awesome. He played he played at Pitt baseball, so he knows the game, understands the game, but he really educates the kids on understanding the game too. Not just, let's just not hit the ball and keep running, right?
Yeah.
Like he wants them to play the game and with a reason. So like last game, there was a play, kid hit it in the outfield and he kept running, was rounding second. The ball was already thrown and the other team called the kid that kept going, and my son's coach told him to stop. He said, listen, in high school, you're not continuing to run. You're just running just to run. That ball's already been thrown. Well, now the coaches start fighting, and the kids are seeing this, and it's just like, oh my God, man, can we just relax and enjoy this? Our kids are outside playing baseball.
Yeah,
how hard is this?
Really, as a coach, like the more structure you try and implement, the more resistance you're going to get from the majority of the kids, right? There's always a couple of kids that are more into it than the rest of the group. And again, everybody develops at a little bit different rate and their interest level is different. So I always encourage coaches, try not to make it too structured, try not to be so hard on the rigid structures of what baseball. Eventually they'll learn how to play the game the right way. And we're introducing outs, which is a tough concept for some kids as much as they say they want to play. I mean, my son struggles when he gets out not to have an emotional reaction to it. And as a parent, it's my job, right, in that situation to be his parent, not his coach, and walk him back to the sidelines, even if he's upset, and just let him know, hey, bud, you're okay. And wait for the appropriate, time to have that conversation with him, maybe the day after, and just talk about what he's feeling in those moments and help him understand that, hey, this is a part of the progression of when you play sports. But it's also why I argue, right, when you have these organizations that want to start competitive baseball at 6, 7, 8 years old, because they want kids that are committed. And I understand you want to play with some like-minded people, but understanding that level of competition brings in a feeling for kids of love gain and love loss. And that's a tough thing for us as parents to understand at this developmental stage, that it is a much harder thing for them to deal with. When they get out of these 0 to 10 years, that's the time we can really start to teach them what failure is and how to deal with it. And we do that before, but the more structure, the more competition, the more pressure these kids are under at a young age, it starts to create this confusion of how we are receiving our love through sports that we play and or losing our love, right? When we go out there and we play a sport and we don't do well.
And it probably pushes them away.
Yes.
I mean, my lady has 2 children that, I've been with for 8 years, and Ben's 10 years old now and he's playing basketball and playing flag football. But I do the same thing as Pep. When I go to these games, I don't say a word.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to, but I don't have a place to do so. So I don't feel compelled enough to say anything, but I look at other people's reactions or what parents are saying or talking about the coach, or the coach is yelling at the kids in disrespect. And it's like, man, they're like 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
Why daunt them with this pressure that's totally unnecessary, and it pushes them away?
It's living vicariously through your child. And it's very disturbing. Go ahead.
I want to know, and I don't know the percentage, but it would be a really interesting study to see the percentage of parents that actually were awful at the sport they're trying to manage.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah, and I'm obviously coming from the highest level of professionalism when it comes to playing baseball. So I try not to like tout that as like I'm better than people, right? I want people to actually look at me and me model the behavior. And parents are like, oh, he doesn't get mad at his kid if he swings a miss, and my kid likes to jump back and forth between lefty and righty while he's hitting. Great. I mean, he's having fun doing that. That's all I care about, right? Is giving him a chance to just express himself in the game of baseball. We have plenty of kids that play in the dirt and draw in the dirt and pick flowers and spin and do the figure eights and all that kind of stuff. And to them, that's the play experience, right? And I think that's what we overlook as parents. If you put your kid outside, or for example, if your kid's playing video games, right, which we can argue what age is appropriate for that, but you want your kid to enjoy playing sports as much as they do playing in the yard or playing video games. You got to understand, if you stood behind your child while they're playing video games and you said, do this, don't do this, do this, do that, they're going to hate video games, right? And I think we're just at a developmental stage where parents don't understand. A lot of parents are doing it for the right reasons because they want their kids to be physically active. They want to learn the team aspect and how to play for something bigger than themselves, which is all good stuff. But understanding that kids' innate state is play, right? And play is not a structured, rigid environment. With their friends, without adults involved, they'll kind of figure these things out. And that's important part of the development process. But we want to make things so structured and so rigid at this stage and make it competitive when really we're doing more damage, or we're deterring them from wanting to continue to play a sport because it just doesn't feel fun, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Neil said is, man, like you're not going to know if the kid's good or not until they're 14, 15 years old. He's like, let's just relax and enjoy it. You know, I got parents, I mean, the only thing they did in college is probably walk to the refrigerator and grab a slice of pizza. Not that's, I'm glad they're good at it, but you didn't do, like, you have no right to be screaming what you're screaming. You don't know.
Yeah, and I also think that a lot of parents don't understand how their past experiences, maybe they didn't play sports, or maybe they did, right? And maybe they had a tough dad or a tough mom or a tough coach or some type of positive or negative experience, right? That is kind of a subconscious motivation for them to have their children play that sport. And it's also, again, we try not to shame parents for living vicariously through their kids, even though that happens sometimes. But I think for the most part, right, parents feel like if their kid isn't achieving something, if they're not keeping up with the rest of the group, that something's wrong. And I would argue that every kid's an individual. We all have different learning capabilities and strengths and weaknesses. And we want to teach our kids as they get older to lean into those things that are difficult to learn. But it's also, we're not at that stage where we're really going to send and land the message that we think we are. And that's, again, something I still struggle with my child, being in that coach-parent relationship. So shout out to all the volunteer coaches who have kids on their team, right? Because a lot of times it's difficult to wear both of those hats and understand that 99% of these kids just need a parent, not a coach. And a lot of times we as parents want to fix these problems for our children, and we want to tell them all the things that they need to get better at. And there's a time and a place down the road for that. But again, if you want to have a healthy, sustainable relationship with your child and have them cultivate a healthy one with the sport they play, there's got to be a balance and an understanding of where they're at and how we can push and how we can pull.
I love it. I mean, it's true. I'm living it currently with my son playing baseball, and I'm very fortunate for the coach that we have because he genuinely cares about the kids and wants to educate them. And he's not, if you strike out, it's okay, dude. Like, we'll get it next time, type thing. And I can really appreciate it. And like you said, the parents that are volunteering, that's not easy, dude.
Yeah.
I quit. I'm done. I'm never doing it again because of all the factors that go into it. So kudos to them.
Travis, do you think, because we're similar in age, but when you were playing youth baseball, do you think since then to now that the youth have more pressure put on them with respect to sports and performance as compared to whenever you were playing Little League or T-ball?
Yeah, and I talked about in a recent article in The Athletic how I had an actual panic attack when I was 11 years old at the Little League Western Regionals. And we had won state that year. We won it when we were 9. And looking back on that, that's a lot to process at 9 and 11 years old. And I was the best player in the state from 9 to 18, right? And I can say that and not try and brag about it, but just to lay the foundation here is like I was the best player and I still had this anxiety issue, right, a couple of times in this tournament. And at the time, I thought it was sports-induced asthma. And after going through kind of my therapeutic process and unpacking some of these previous memories, I was like, oh man, that just was too much pressure, right, for a kid to experience at that age and emotionally be able to regulate themselves. So Nowadays, you have the competitive travel teams that have started at these 6. I haven't heard about a 4U team the other day, but a 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, which on one hand, you could argue, right, if you have friends that don't live in the same Little League district, you want to keep a kind of a core group of kids together. I was fortunate enough to have that fabulous core group of kids, but we all lived in the same area, so we played for the same Little League, right? And then once we turned 13, that's when we kind of started to break off into separate groups and play at more competitive levels based off of our skill level and also our commitment and love for the game. So during those Little League years, we didn't go out and play 50, 60 game schedules, which you're seeing nowadays. And not only on the mental and emotional side, right? It's a lot of pressure to put on kids at this stage, but it's also a lot on their bodies, right? And we're seeing more kids having surgeries as they get into high school, which I had elbow surgery in high school from overuse of playing baseball. So these are kind of the cautionary tales that I'm trying to bring to the table for parents to understand. Like, it might seem like a good idea when they're 8 to go and play the extra 30 or 40 games, but you don't know what that's doing mentally, emotionally, and physically to those kids 4 or 5 years down the road.
So let me ask you something. When you were growing up, did you play other sports other than baseball?
I did, yeah. I played football all the way through sophomore year, broke my ankle, missed my junior season, had a pretty major surgery. And then going into the draft my senior year, it was like, if I get hurt again playing football, it's going to knock my first round potential status that I had achieved at that point. So I played basketball all the way up until high school because I played varsity baseball and football as a freshman. I'm like, I'm not going to go play freshman basketball. And I didn't really love playing basketball. It was more like kept me in shape kind of thing for baseball season, but also had a lot of really good memories of playing middle school basketball. And I think that was the one sport that clearly I did not have the motivation to go and take the amount of jump shots that we were supposed to and like check all these boxes in terms of a process. Football and baseball, I was internally motivated. Basketball it was tough for me to be internally motivated. And that's kind of why I said at that point, I don't want to play anymore.
Well, I ask you that because you've mentioned these kids are playing more and more. They're focusing on one sport so much, like hockey. You got you got off ice training throughout the summer. Baseball, you've got these travel teams. And growing up, baseball season was over. We picked up hockey or whatever it was, basketball or whatever. And I think that was important too, that we played numerous sports, is because you learn from different people and you're not so focused on one sport and you're not getting burned out. By the time you're 14 years old, you can be burned out from the sport and hate it. And now you're really letting your parents down in their mind. I've spent all this money and blah, 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 and you don't want to play anymore?
Yep.
And it's like, that's where that pressure's coming from.
Yeah. And I think you touched on a couple of things, but I'll add to it is the athletic development, right, of playing different sports. There's different demands in playing football and basketball and hockey and tennis or whatever the additional sports are. So if your kids are interested in that, trying to specialize at a young age doesn't make any sense to me unless your child's like, I don't like any sport other than baseball or whatever it is. So I always encourage parents to have their kids play multiple sports. I was a multiple sport player myself. There's a lot of guys that played at the highest level that did not specialize at 8, 9, 10 years old. You see the stories across the board in all sports, right? Where it's like we get caught up in this idea that if we don't start that process early enough, that our kid's going to miss out on some opportunity when, as you alluded to earlier, there's a clear path to burnout, right, for kids. And that I got involved with the local facility and helped start a business and merged a couple and was involved with the youth program that I think has a lot of good people running the program. But when I was in the role of director of player development, I saw, 13-year-old kids out on the field from 8 to 9:30 on a Friday night. It's like those kids should be at the movies with their buddies or at a dance or enjoying something other than being out on a baseball field and learning to hate the game, right? Because it's 35 degrees. And again, we're going to teach them grit, but we're going to do that in November instead of like in April when the games are actually taking place. So it's like, to me, there's a lot of pressure for parents and club officials, right? To sell this concept of, hey, we're going to train your player different and that's going to help their development, when I think we've gotten things kind of out of control and a little bit backwards as to what really needs to be taking place.
All this is so good. I mean, it's so true. And if anything, as a parent, this is stuff I feel like I do a pretty good job. But this is stuff that it's ever evolving, and you need to learn as a parent this kind of stuff, because if we genuinely care about our children, let's not burn them out.
Yeah,
like let's just have fun in life. Life's short, as we all know. Life is so short, and let's enjoy it a little bit.
I'm going to be cynical here and say that some of it might have to do with the fact that, hey, my son like play great at your sport so you can get a full scholarship so I don't have to pay for your college.
Yeah. And again, there's an
Make
investment aspect to
make it.
this. Parents are spending
Yeah.
thousands of dollars, especially in the 13 to 18-year-old travel club team. So it's like, at that point, you're looking at your child as an investment, which is, it's kind of the touchy line to be walking with the thing that you created, and you want to build kind of this healthy outlook on life without these external conscious and subconscious pressures. And I think not every parent is looking at their child as the next Division I scholarship athlete, but as you get further down this road and you start to see other kids within the community or within the state that are getting this type of recognition, and I think a lot of times we as parents, and I've been guilty of this, and I'm sure both of you guys have, right? Where you're very proud of your child because they've done something really cool, and that feels good as a parent. And I think that's there's a feeling, right, that can become consuming for us as parents. And it's also, what kind of reflection is it if my child is out there struggling with something on me as a parent, right? So that, again, I try and shed light on that without the shame, right, of you're a bad parent. It's like, no, we're all probably kind of in that mid-range of parenting where we're not perfect and we're going to do damage. Like, let's just put that on the table. It's completely impossible to be a perfect parent, but also continuing to educate ourselves and continuing to push this conversation to the forefront of what's really happening out there and how can we as parents give our kids a better opportunity to be successful in life, not as an athlete or not as a person in school, but as a human being who's healthy and happy and resilient and is going to grow up and do great things in the world.
So you mentioned something about your mental health growing up, and we had on JP Arancibia.
Oh, that's my boy.
So we had him on the podcast a few weeks ago, and basically that's what he said, is that the anxiety of when he was playing pro is why he ended up retiring. Yeah. It got to a point where he just couldn't do it anymore. And you're seeing more and more of these athletes walking away from their sport.
Yeah.
And for no reason. And not no reason, but you know what I mean. Their mental health, their physical health is worth more than the amount of money that they're making. I mean, this CTE thing is, you see Jason Kelsey now came out, CTE. Yeah. And it's just like you're pushing everything to the limits. And I thought it was very interesting to hear JP talk about it openly. And I think that's important that more people talk about this than just keeping it boxed up.
Yeah, for context, JP and I were roommates for 5 or 6 years in spring training. That's my boy. We came through the system together. He was a first round pick the year after me, and we decided to live together every spring training and play together at high A, double A, triple A, and at the major league level. So JP and I have a deep, deep relationship, and him and I both actually spoke together on a panel for transitioning alumni from the MLB this offseason. I heard him speak on that panel the year before. And again, kudos to JP for opening up and being vulnerable and sharing these things with people to understand. It's like, yeah, you may want your kid to be a Major League Baseball player, but there's plenty of stories out there of baseball and all other athletes, right, that have very difficult times balancing being great at a sport and having a healthy personal life, right? And I think that's something JP and I have connected on a lot over the years, even though when we were kind of young and dumb and not really worried about all these things that we realize now. But now that we've kind of gone through it and we have a chance to share our stories and hopefully open people's eyes and ears to the understanding that just because you accomplish something great in your life, I mean, there's plenty of multi-million and billionaire people that you'll meet that are miserable people, right? Because their identity is solely tied up in their performance in work or how much money they make and what their title is. And again, I'm not encouraging people not to go and pursue their dream, but it's like being able to separate that identity of who you are and what you do. And that's something I realized when we started 3A Athletics was like, we got to get to the grassroots. We got to get this thing started at a younger level because a lot of this is parent and coach and player dynamics, right, that are being overlooked and something that's kind of been normalized over the last 20 years that is really not going in the direction that I think a lot of people would agree is healthiest for kids in their child development.
So let's touch on that 3A Athletics because you brought that up. We were going to bring that up. So
yeah,
give the audience a little bit of a background in terms of what that specifically is for your organization.
Yeah, so Seth Taylor is my partner, the author of the parent guide book Hero, which is out now. You can check it on our website, 3athletics.com. We also have an athlete's journal in there. So we're trying to focus on the player-parent relationship, and then we also have a coach's version that's coming out here in the next couple of months, as well as a podcast. It is a workshop podcast. It's meant to educate parents and share stories from not only my playing career, but me and Seth as parents with kids that are in this arena and what we're observing and what we're experiencing, right? Because neither of us are perfect. But the parent guidebook is essentially geared to help parents go through these past experiences and understand how those affect the way you parent your child, preparing them for the difficult conversations and situations when your son or daughter gets cut from a team or isn't playing enough or is not playing the position you think they should. How do you handle those conversations with your kid, and how do you handle them with the coach? Because those are pivotal learning experience and moments for kids in their development. And a lot of time parents get a reaction, right, emotionally, that feels like we're being screwed over in what we're trying to accomplish with our kids' development. And it becomes a very toxic dynamic, right, for the kid to witness that we can't sit down and just have the conversation that everybody needs to have. It's like, what do I need to do to get better? Or what's the next opportunity that's on the plate? So the other piece of it is how do you talk to your kid, right, and ask them impactful questions, insightful, gaining insight into how they actually feel when mom or dad cheers from the stands or yells, hey, throw a strike when you're pitching, or immediately when you get in the car with your kid after the game and you want to correct all the mistakes that they made. And it's like the line I keep going back to is, do you need a parent or do you need a coach, right? And I think one of our friends in our kind of inner circle had thrown that out there a few weeks ago. And it was like, man, that's such a powerful question to ask, right? Because so many of us as parents, we want to fix the problem. We want to teach our kids these things. And in that moment, emotionally, what they need is just to know, hey, I'm safe and I'm loved. And that's it, right? And then they can process it. And then down the road, you can have these lighthearted conversations with them to help them understand. As they get older, you can get more into it. But it's also, do you want to create that dynamic with your kid who always feels like mom or dad's going to point out the things that they did wrong, right? And that just like becomes a confusing experience for kids to know, am I really loved, right? If I go out there and strike out, and then dad's going to talk to me in the car, or mom's going to talk to me in the car about this, that, and whatever. And I think those are things parents are doing for the right reasons because they want to help, but it's like, we're not actually helping the kids the way we think we are.
And I think that in my experience, listening to what you're saying, how this applies to sports, it's also applicable to life now for the youth, right? Mm-hmm. You get people now that are feeling emotions more than ever because maybe they're not included in a friend group. Maybe this group went to the mall, left them out. You got this whole movement with social media and the youth and looking certain ways and not feeling secure because they don't get enough likes or all this stuff. And to you and I, and the three of us right here, we can look at that and go like, who gives a crap? Like, who really cares, right?
Yeah.
But to them at that point in their life, that's the biggest thing that they have. It's like most important thing, right?
Yeah. So, well, even when I was at the top, right, it's like you got 60, 70,000 followers on Twitter, right? And you have a good game and you go on there and it's just all love. And it's just a dopamine hit that you can't really compare to anything else in life. And now the generation that you're speaking on, right, they've grown up with this, right? Depending on what age they've been exposed to social media. And we all know how hard middle school and high school can be if you're not popular, you're not good looking, you're not an athlete. There's all these like titles, right, that start to form the sense of who am I and what makes me love, right? Going back to those identity questions. And I think, as you mentioned, this is applicable to all aspects of life. Sports is kind of my arena, right, having played professionally. But I think the more people I talk to in the world of business, the more people that I talk to who are successful, you start to uncover this similar narrative, right? It's like I put everything, all my eggs in this basket of going out and achieving great things and making great money and being able to tell people what I do or whatever it may be, right? But ultimately that doesn't fulfill them. And I think that's where all of us as generations, we get to a point in our life where we kind of have that midlife crisis, is like, what's really important, right? I've put so much into this idea of being a baseball player. And for kids that are coming out of high school, right? It's like some of these kids are just playing their last game of high school baseball and will never play baseball again, other than, rec leagues and stuff like that. And that's a tough transition. And as I started going through my process at the end of my career, being like, okay, I'm not healthy mentally. I'm not in a space where I feel like what I achieved in my career is what I was capable of doing, but it also was affecting the way that I was a husband, as a father, as just a person in my relationships. And I'm like, I need to do some work, right? I need to uncover kind of where all this stuff is stemming from. And a lot of it drew back to my childhood experiences, right? And that was something where I was like, okay, as we're kind of looking at this landscape of sports, right, from the top on down, it's like there's so many kids that are playing youth sports and there's so many parents that are involved in this space, and the energy field has just gotten so intense for people to care about things like state rankings and player rankings at such a young age that our kids are going through this process and they're not really sure what makes them valuable, right? Because you get the love when you have the great game, or you win a all conference, or you get to put a patch on your Letterman's jacket. And I remember how cool I felt, right, when you get to add patches to your Letterman's jacket. And it's like, those are all experiences that kids should have on some level, and as they go through this process. But as parents, we got to make sure that we're pulling them back down to that foundation of who you are and what you bring to what you do, right? Not just what you do defines who you are.
What's your Letterman jacket look like, bud? Bash?
I just got the
have one in high school?
It just has the B for Brownsville and a couple golf gloves on it.
Just the golf team on there?
I didn't have a good. I like baseball, especially as a spectator, but me and baseball did not have a fun run when I played youth baseball. Number one, I grew up in kind of a depressed economic area, so our baseball field was kind of next to a coal mine or a coal railroad track. My team, I was playing on Fisher Big Will's team, which is akin to a Goodwill, and one of my teammates locked me in a porta potty before the baseball game started, and I was terrified. I couldn't get the frick out of the porta potty. So baseball and I it was just kind of one of them things. But yeah, Pep, that's to answer your question. That's all I had. How about yours? Yeah, right.
Same thing.
Okay.
Golf. So let me ask you something, Travis. You played in the big leagues, and you had to head to the stadium numerous times throughout the year. Did any of your teammates ever get arrested on the way into the stadium, like what's transpiring with Scotty Scheffler, what happened at the PGA Championship?
I mean, first of all, there was a tragedy that took place, right? And where everything is just kind of chaotic because somebody was hit by, my understanding was a shuttle bus, right? So that just creates a sense of panic amongst the people who are around there. I would imagine that heightens kind of the intensity of the cops that are involved in this situation. I can say this, when you go in and out of stadiums and there's fans and there's lines and there's just crazy traffic, it can be very chaotic. And it's a difficult thing when your place of business is the stadium or the golf course that you're trying to get to. Mm-hmm. And I was hearing some of the stories about guys just parking on the road and walking multiple miles just to get into the clubhouse, right? Because there's just so much confusion of what's going on and how we're actually going to get to work and go out and play in this majors tournament, right? Mm-hmm. So again, I don't have all the details from the stuff that I've read. It seemed like, he was trying his best to just get into the stadium, and the cop that was trying to stop him didn't understand, or there was a miscommunication or something. I don't know if the cop was physically injured. I think there's different reports out there, so I can't speak to all of it. But I don't think I had a friend get arrested for just driving over a median and not following the cop's orders. But I can also see where in that chaos, right, a guy like Scotty is just like, I just need to get into the stadium. I'm actually, the best golfer in the world, not from an ego standpoint, but like, I got to get in there and play, right? This is another major I want to tack onto my list. And so, yeah, it'd be interesting to see as the more details roll out. But no, I never saw anybody get arrested right in front of the stadium. That's pretty crazy.
He got 4 charges, one with assault of a cop. So this should be interesting to see how this cookie crumbles with him, and if he ends up winning. I mean, he's 3 under. We're recording this in the second round, and he's 3 under through 11 right now. So I mean, mentally,
I think he came out birdied one, had a sick approach shot, and stuck it to like 4 feet. He's nasty, man. And it's cool to hear the other guys talk about him too, right? Because when you're the best in the world, there's a lot of opinions that float around of who you are and what kind of guy you are. And it just seems to be the consensus that this is out of character, right, for Scotty, if there was actually an assault that took place. And again, how that all crumbles, we don't know at this stage, but it doesn't seem like something he would do,
Right.
They said that he walked into the grill and he finally got to the clubhouse, and he walked into the grill to get breakfast, and he said, "Good morning, everyone." Like he just screamed it to everybody. So at least
and some of the memes right now on social media are just incredible. I mean, all the mugshots of Daly and Woods.
Oh my God.
Again, we're not trying to highlight the negative things that happen in people's lives, but again, this is kind of to the point of like some of these guys that struggle off the field or off the course with the personal issues. And I was one of those guys, right? It's a lot of pressure. And it's things that we overlook as we're looking at our kid and saying, could you grow up and be a Major League Baseball player or PGA golfer? It's like, well, we want to make sure that the foundation, at least from what I've seen from Scotty Scheffler, is like, if I could have my child watch one athlete and try and emulate the way that he goes about his business, the way that he speaks about who he is and what he's grounded in, I think it's unfortunate that his name is the one that's brought up in all this, but I'm hoping, right, it kind of comes to light that things got overblown and it wasn't as severe as it sounded, and that, he's kind of still the same guy that we all thought he was.
Yeah.
Well, you being from the Northwest, I mean, there's not much golf time for you, and so you have an indoor facility with 6
Yep.
simulators and
Yeah,
a bunker.
indoor bunker.
So tell us a
Yeah,
little
so
about
Evergreen
that.
Golf Club in Redmond, Washington. The co-founders are Jermaine Kearse, former Seattle Seahawk, New York Jet, and then Greg Bodine, current caddy for Bryson DeChambeau, and he is actually at Valhalla right now. So I just got some Augusta National Golf Course club heads from him, club head covers, when he came back from the Masters, and got to sit down and chop it up about the experience of the first 2 rounds versus the 3rd and 4th round and kind of what's taking place out there. So it's really cool for me. Is I'm not a lifer golf fan, but I love hearing the intricacies and the nuances of what professional golfers go through and what caddies go through, right? And what their job really is when they're on the bag with specific guys and their personalities and all that kind of stuff. So I've really enjoyed seeing that. But yeah, Evergreen, we got 6 indoor TrackMan bays, and I've been grinding there for the last 2 years. We got 2 really, really good swing coaches that are great human beings. And then the junior program, I think, is the thing we're all most excited about, is we have a lot of really good young golfers, and the people that train those kids are very aware, right, of the developmental process, and have built a healthy foundation for these kids to come in and get work in and then go out and play in their tournaments and do the things that they're doing, but have access to a sports psychologist, have access to people like Jermaine, like Greg, who are at the highest level of their sports, as well as some really, really good coaches in there to help coach them up. And I think for me, it's just a joy every time I get to walk in there and you see a young kid, right? And we have a foundation that's paired with this that helps raise money to help get kids into the program that can't afford it too. So, right, you start to see kind of the trickle-down effect of what started a year and a half, 2 years ago now, and I'm really proud of those guys. And I'm just a small part of it, right? I'm just more of a show-and-go investor,
That's
but
awesome.
I definitely take advantage of the facility and really proud of what they're doing.
You're dialing it in. That's what led to your hole-in-one.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Credit to Austin Nutt, my swing coach at Evergreen. We appreciate it, bro.
Was he on the bag for Bryson when he shot 58 or 50, whatever he shot, 59 or 8 at the Greenbrier?
I
think
believe
it's 58.
so, yeah.
That had to be pretty cool to see that.
Wow.
I mean, this
Could you
guy's probably
imagine
got
that?
books of
Could you imagine she-
measurements, numbers, angles, cosines, D signs.
Yeah, well, that was the thing
Trigonometry.
that's kind of explaining to me with the greens at Augusta, because you don't get a greens book, was my understanding, right? So in the way that they check all the slope, I just got my first greens book a couple weeks ago, and I'm feeling like a pro, even though I'm still shooting 94. But going out there and hearing kind of what the process is and the challenges, right, that you face at Augusta that you don't face at other courses and other events. So it is fun. Again, those are the nuances, the intricacies that we as the fan watching golf are just like, wow, how did he not make that putt? Or how is he missing that putt by this amount? And it's like he's walking me through Bryson's whole process. And I was like, holy, I have a lot to learn, right? As a golfer, I got a lot to learn to kind of get to that level where you're thinking about things the way that he does.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy how detailed these people don't realize how good these sport players are.
We
It's
do.
insane.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we do, but
Don't.
there's people.
Yeah,
that
the
just
average
don't.
fan watching has no idea, right? And I'm a 13
That's like-
handicap, so I'm not speaking from any place of like breaking 72 ever in my life, but understanding what it takes at the highest level to be a baseball player and what people don't understand when they watch the game of baseball, just watching on TV. I just know golf is so much more advanced in terms of how they view shots and where their misses are and just the percentages that they play are insane.
It's like people saying, "Give me 10 pitches from a major league pitcher, and I'll hit one of
Well,
them." No, you won't.
I'm backing
Like,
him.
no.
Yeah,
Zero
well,
chance.
Greg has had kind of a standing bet with a few of us former pro guys that are involved in the facility where it's like he could go out and get X amount of hits and X amount of at bats. And I've kind of come around to the idea that maybe he would put a couple balls in play. So I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but it's like if you're actually out there facing guys that are throwing hammer curveballs and sliders and mixing in fastballs and changeups and cutters and sweepers and all the pitches, right, that they can throw. It's not just sitting there even hitting off a 100-mile-an-hour fastball machine. There's just a lot of things you don't understand, and the pitch doesn't move the same every time they throw it. So good luck.
Yeah. No, that's a tough thing to. I had a home ec teacher once, and he was a baseball nut. I mean, this cat, he's still freaking teaching baseball. But he used to always tell me, Bash, golf, the ball's not even moving, man. You got to try to hit that fastball. That thing's coming at you 100, moving this way, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I understand
That's
that's
exactly
hard,
why
but
I'm
fucking
playing
golf
golf.
is hard as shit, okay? Like,
Yeah.
number one. Number two. But back to the youth, I do think golf has a lot of good values to instill in young kids, accountability, honesty, being able to have some type of camaraderie or a respectful relationship with competitors,
Yep.
whereas other sports you might not have that. But But baseball.
Well, and that's the thing,
hard.
Travis. Like you can play golf with your son until you're
Yep.
70 years old. You know what I mean? It's like it's a game that you can play forever, and you can use it as business in
Yep.
the business world. You can find out about a lot about a person
Yep.
in a round of golf, and I think it's very important. And so that's awesome that your love for the game. Neil said that you're all
Yeah.
about it right now.
Full
so
head
that's
in,
awesome.
and like you said, the competitive aspect, we are a group of guys that have been friends for 20, 30 years. So there's a lot of storied rivalries that we like to roll out there from the Little League days as we're playing these matches. And I think ultimately for me, it gives me a competitive outlet, right? Which if I didn't have one, I think my wife would probably have kicked me out of the house years ago. As much as she doesn't love that I play as much golf, she's very supportive of it because she understands that I gotta release the demon somewhere in a healthy way. And as long as I'm not going out there and losing the mortgage, we're gonna be fine.
Hey, no, good. I was just gonna ask, are you on the Zen train by chance?
I am. Yeah, I don't promote that to people, but I do have. You're going to judge me. I'm a 3 milli guy, but that's because I put 2 of them in. And again, I've been off them for like weeks at a time and trying to just kick it, but it's also of the necessary vices or unnecessary vices. I feel like that one's kind of tempered in terms of what it's doing to you.
Yeah, they're delicious. It's like little candies, and it's good. Now the 6s don't really. I don't even feel it, honestly.
Yeah.
But supposedly there's a couple of different generic brands coming out with 12s, which I might try, but no, there's nothing that compares to it. It's like, and I don't have anything to compare to it. I mean, I quit dipping actual tobacco in 2014 just on a whim. Not that I rubbed a lot, but I did. And then just randomly tried these a couple years ago, and I'm like, oh wow, these are pretty good.
I mean, I'm not encouraging anybody to pick them up, right, because they are addictive. But like you, I chewed tobacco for most of my career, and as you're sitting at home with 3 kids and you're spitting into a bottle, wasn't the look I was trying to have with my kids. And again, spitters are just disgusting anyways. And so again, if you're in that train where there are actual health benefits to nicotine that I've learned over the years, but again, it's like, where's the balance with all this and trying to be not somebody who's just got dip spit all over themselves and have spitters running around the house. So.
Yeah. Plus the teeth.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I smoke cigars. But
multiple.
I always taste the cigars the next day. I enjoy them from time to time, but it's like those things just stick in my mouth the next morning.
Walks a little bit of a cigar guy now.
I would
sophisticated.
Yeah, he's a
sophisticated guy right now. Well, we finish a round of golf and we head back to your house, and I understand that you're pretty good on the barbecue.
Yep.
So what are you whipping up?
Lately we've been on this skirt steak train at my house. My kids crush it, and we can throw out 3 or 4 pounds of it with a group of people, and it gets destroyed. Wife is fantastic on the marination station, and then put me on the grill, and I'm going to make magic. So that's been our go-to as of recently. But for the average night that we're having people over, especially the boys back when we were playing, when we come to Seattle, it was ribeyes, it was fillets, it was New Yorks. And those are the things that I've been lucky to have a good relationship with a local wholesale meat company that's got pretty good prices for prime beef. So we like to roll out the nice steaks for the nice attendees. And for me, I enjoy red meat more than any food in the world. So I try and stick to that as much as I can.
Have you had grass-fed
red meat and red wine?
Grass-fed, grass-finished?
Yes, and I'll say it's healthier for you, but I don't like the taste as much. So I do grass-fed, grass-finished beef in other forms, but the steaks themselves, I'm more on the grass-fed, corn-finished, and try and buy from cleaner sources of ranchers that aren't pumping a bunch of antibiotics in there. But it's tough to beat a corn-fed piece of steak that's got a nice fat layer on it and just melts in your mouth.
And it's funny now we have all these options. You know, and maybe we weren't. I don't know. I swear, my mom went to Foodland growing up and just grabbed a couple steaks, and I had no question about it. You know, nowadays I'm researching the shit that they're putting in this, what they're feeding, where it's raised. I mean, you could sit there and look at stuff all day long and drive yourself crazy. I saw one guy on Instagram say that if a fruit is not grown in your region, don't eat it. And I'm thinking to myself, but I live in West Virginia. Number one, we don't get sunshine. What fruit grows here? So you're telling me now basically I can't eat fruit?
Yeah.
No. Like
a lot of rabbit holes. lot of rabbit
bullshit.
holes you can go down. I've been deep into this space for most of my career because I always was the kid who would get thrown in fat camp early in my career. So I had to kind of learn more about like how to take better care of myself. And again, I think you pick your battles with these things, and there's a lot to be gained from making adjustments with the nutritional choices that you make, because of the inflammation for me as a retired athlete. I got 4 or 5 joints that don't like it when I eat sugar, don't like it when I eat dairy. And these are things that I've learned through a lot of testing and a lot of trial and error and working with people who are much smarter than me and trying to educate myself on what's best for me, right? And I think ultimately that's what we're all trying to find, is what optimizes the way you feel and your energy level and that type of thing.
So that's fantastic. And red meat, I love red meat, but if I eat too much of it, I get gout flare-ups. So
I would encourage you to lean into some of the sugar and dairy and maybe some of the gluten stuff, because again, not everybody's gluten intolerant. I have celiac, right? So I have to freaking call a restaurant every time I want to go out to eat, and I ask them to be able to prepare it without the cross-contamination, which is just high maintenance, and not suggesting anybody has to go down that path. But again, I think the gout aspect, I have a family history of that. And I think it's gotten this label of it's red meat. But I think there's other things, right, that factor into it. So I would encourage you to lean deeper into that and see if you can find some studies out there that might say, okay, there's maybe a few choices you're making that you can eliminate that will help with that.
Yeah, I second that,
I
Pat.
don't need your agreeing over there.
No, you need to.
I'm going to listen to him, not you.
I agree with him. That's what
gout's a tough thing. My grandpa had it. My uncle had it. At least at this stage, knock on wood, I don't have it. But I got plenty of other issues, right, that I'm working through. And that's kind of led me deep into these rabbit holes to understand. For me personally, I try not to preach these things to people, because that was kind of my personality early in my 20s, is everybody's got to do the same thing as me. And I've learned it's just the narcissist in me that wants to come out and tell everybody how to do it. So I try and stay away from it. But I would encourage you to lean into that. See if there's some more out there.
Yeah.
My triglycerides are high too. So I was just looking at, up what helps triglycerides lower the numbers, and Shilajit. Have you heard of this?
But
I have not heard of Shilajit.
Yeah, every morning in my coffee.
Yeah.
You got to buy Symbiotic.
What are the ingredients in there?
So it's saying these are gummies with organic Manuka honey.
Yep.
Flavor with organic blood orange oil and organic vanilla.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the gummies. I mean, for one bottle, it's $100. Like, is it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, that space is crazy with the amount of supplements that you can take and what's being sold to you, right? And I think it's an individual basis of what are your problems and how do you want to solve them. I just think the way that we grew up, there wasn't all this information out there, and now there's just tons of information. So it's tough to sift through and figure out what actually applies and what doesn't. I do think that there's a lot of truth behind some misconceptions that we've been led to believe, as far as, things like red meat, sodium, certain dietary choices that we're making to affect our cholesterol levels, like you said. I've had great reports and not so great reports with blood work I've done over the last 20 years, but I always see better results when I stick to eating protein, clean sources of carbohydrates, mixing in some fruits and some vegetables, and then supplementing for the things that my body is deficient in, right? And I think that you can go down many, many rabbit holes, but I think for a couple $100, you can get some blood tests done and find a doctor who kind of thinks outside the box and isn't just looking to prescribe you the cholesterol or blood pressure medication and trying to find the root causes. I think that, going back to 3-8, right? It's like, what are the root causes for these issues that we're seeing? Because it's very easy to just take more pills that the doctor's going to give you. And I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor, right? But I always challenge the thought process of it that's put in front of me and say, okay, am I missing something here? Is there another source of information that might lead me down a path to a better connection or a better decision that I can make?
Yeah, and have the result you ultimately want.
Yeah.
I agree. Travis, I could sit here and talk to you about that all day, because I'm kind of like Symbiotica. Have you heard of Symbiotica out of San Diego? You need to.
Oh, it's so good.
And I got him on these little things, but they're blowing up. But it's really all natural stuff for wellness, and it's But so Sheila J, I bought some months ago, and I've just put in my coffee in the morning. It looks like tar. Yep. It's resin from the Himalayas.
Yeah, I can buy as resin, so I should just put it in as my coffee.
Yeah.
Anyways, I
I'll get
mean,
back with you on that, bud.
Yeah, I mean, I was the guy that was putting MCT oil in his coffee like 12 years ago before it was like a mainstream thing, and
Yeah.
everybody in the clubhouse was like, dude, what's wrong with you? I'm like, well, it's got good fats, and I feel great when I do it, and yeah, whatever. I don't do that now, but I think it's a trial and error process, right? You got to try some things to figure out what works for you and figure out what checks the box that you need.
yeah. Well, man, it was awesome having you on today's episode of Chasing Birdies, and we're going to wrap this up with our final segment of the show called the Tap In segment presented by Bettinardi Golf. Check them out at bettinardi.com. Pep's going to ask you 4 questions that demand your quick response. Take it away, bud.
All right. Favorite steak seasoning and favorite beef cut?
Kosher salt, cure, 45 to 60 minutes prior. Cover it, wash it off with hot water. No seasoning needed after that, and ribeye all day.
I love ribeye.
Yeah, gotta have the fat.
What one piece of advice do you have for baseball parents or athletic parents?
Make your child feel safe and make your child feel loved, no matter what happens, and create that bond of trust so that they can come to you later in life with the problems that you want to be a sounding board for them. And I think that starts at a young age.
All right. Which one is harder? Home run off Roy Halladay or a hole in one?
Ooh, I don't know if I got to face Roy. I played behind him quite a bit. I'm going to say hole in one just because I got it.
All right. All right. Not a big deal. What are you chasing?
I am chasing personal growth and creating a healthier experience for my children and understanding that there are cycles, generationally speaking, that are in play that we all have as humans. And it's an opportunity for us to create a better opportunity for our kids by breaking those cycles. So I'm trying my best to lean into my own stuff and stay in the space of self-growth and being honest and having people around me that will keep this big ego I got in check.
Love it.
That's
Love
really
it,
good.
man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Chasing Birdies. We appreciate it. We need to peg it up soon. Maybe get you out this way, see Mr. Walker, and get you up to Nemacolin and for a little bit.
That sounds beautiful. I would really enjoy that.
Yeah, Travis, thanks so much, my man.
Travis Snider, my man, thank you so much for coming on Chasing Birdies. We truly appreciate it. It was good to talk to him and see what he's doing with kids in sports, because I think it is something that is a little spiraling out of control and the way the parents are acting and everything. And, you know, you want your kid to do as well as possible, but within reason. Like, let's show love and support to them no matter what they do. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Creating a safe space and, you know, not really holding them to it right now at this young age, period. And allowing them to feel comfortable and blossom in their own skin and not have to feel like if they make a mistake or
Right.
they're going to be punished or living under the pressure of what, you know, someone may expect them. I don't know. It is a tough thing because you see it now a lot, you know, and I see it a little bit just being around some youth sports and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong with being competitive. I totally don't disagree with that. But at the end of the day, I mean, these kids, they're just kids, man. And you start getting them into these programs where that's all they're doing now, whether it's summer training, fall doing this, fall. I like what you said. You said, look, what happened to not playing the different sports, you know? You used to play a couple sports here and there, and it's good.
You talk to a lot of, and we're fortunate enough to talk to enough professional athletes to get the same consensus. These kids you're not going to know if they're good until they're 14, 15, 16 anyways.
Right.
So to be at a 5-year-old, 6-year-old baseball game screaming your head off bloody murder and all this other stuff, like, you just look like a fool a little bit. So let's enjoy the kids having fun playing baseball or basketball or golf or hockey or dodgeball or badminton, pickleball. That's hot right now. Let's let them have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah, or let them just be outside in nature and let them understand the way the grass feels on your bare feet and stuff like that, and not have to be so tight. I don't know. But a great place for kids and families, especially now that we're coming into the summer season, is Nemacolin Resort here in Farmington, Pennsylvania. Check them out online at nemacolin.com. A great place to bring your family, have a little family outing, let the kids roam. And if you want, you could play some golf. Mystic Rock is in top shape right now. I know it because Pep has told me about it. Shepherd's Rock is dynamite. So you got 2 for 1. Come on up, bring your family, bring your friends, check them out, nemacolin.com. We'll be there in another month and a half, bud.
But I can't wait. There's the Chasing Birdies 2, man. There's a certain feel in the air when you get up there. Like, we got a major coming. And we've got some surprises. We've got some things up our sleeves.
Oh, this gift. I know I can't talk about it, but my God, this gift is going to be epic.
You can't say a word.
I'm not saying a word. I just said a word, but it wasn't anything about it.
All right. Well, hey, bud.
Whatever.
Enjoy this Memorial Day weekend with your friends, your family. Drink some cold ones, all right? Not too many. I know you get out of control a little bit. Maybe enjoy a cigar or 2.
Yeah, maybe I will.
And,
maybe I will.
Hit them straight, long. Make those putts, bud.
Yeah, and this weekend is the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial in Fort Worth, so make sure you tune into that event. It's always a fun time to watch that. Michael Block's playing in it. He got a sponsor's exemption, by the way. And I really do appreciate you guys out there tuning into today's episode on Chasing Birdies. Thank you to Evo and Allie and Emily at Simpler Media for putting this together. And naturally, Jacqueline DiPaterio, Rachel London, all y'all social media help. We do appreciate it. You guys have a great, blessed, fun weekend, and we'll see y'all in 2.